I'm getting canceled. We're gonna do that. We're gonna get into that in a second. Please don't take the cancellation seriously. It's just bad empanada and 2 mLs. No, I know. I'm not taking it seriously. What? Went to sleep, woke up, saw some nasty shit all up and down Reddit. Saw that I was getting canceled simultaneously by Bad Empanada. That's right. I can't wait for my major media career. None of it is relevant. We'll talk about some of it as a joke. It doesn't really matter. I do believe that a lot of people are going to come back in here today and just like make a mountain out of a molehill, which is fine. If you guys want to be on this wavelength, that's all right. I'm going to keep it pushing. I'm going to keep talking about things that I think are relevant and important. I mean, you're talking to people in the Democratic Party structure like Zero Shock. They've had horrific takes up until this point. So you very clearly pushed them on things and didn't tone down your language at all. I know. The issue is a lot of people think that a person who is like a foreign policy guy, a conversation that you have with a person who's like a foreign policy guy who you have disagreements with, that you let your disagreements be known, is going to lead to like a bloodbath. The irony, of course, as always, is that it's the same principle behind the Nelk boys. Like I had a conversation with them in the immediate aftermath, and yet that in and of itself did not come across as like being sufficiently antagonistic to a lot of people, because some of you guys, I think, are more invested in the bloodbath of it all and not necessarily the information you can derive out of that. If you are unconditionally and uncompromisingly on board, then it is what it is. Good. Only time will tell if these people are being cynical or being bad. Also, the conversation was supposed to be about Ukraine and Russia, which, obviously I can't stop talking about Israel, which is why it is what it is. I told you what the reason was. I also didn't know a lot of the stuff that Matt Duss had said, to be fair. And I wish I had known so I could just like push back on some of this stuff, right? But having said that, I think there is a difference with the way that I have adversarial interviews with like someone like Matt Duss versus someone like, what's her face? Elise Stefanik, right? Crystal Ball's Stefanik interview is fantastic. Everybody loves that. Just apologize, man. I will never apologize for that. And the fact that you are demanding an apology for this is the most idiotic thing I've ever fucking heard in my entire life. Who the fuck are you? Like, what the fuck are you saying? Who the fuck do you think you are? What do you mean? Like, this is what I'm talking about. The sense of entitlement that a lot of people have in this situation is so fucking insane. It's going to be a rough stream. I know. You're seeing a long bubbling issue with this chat, and that is being detached from reality and human interaction and pouncing on everyone who says something that makes them 1% less comfortable. I don't know much about Matt Duss beyond the interview and his commentary yesterday. He seems like a fine dude. What's going on? It's because of a bunch of the stuff that he has said in the past. And I wish I knew more about that. What he's saying right now is that you got to stop, weapons transfers. And part of the reason why I wanted to address some of that was because like I wanted to hear what he would say in defense of like offensive weapons versus defensive weapons. And having said that, people are once again making an insane mountain out of a molehill. And not only that, but also they're making an insane mountain out of a molehill. He conceded on that front. That's the other thing. Like there was a bunch of stuff that he actually, there was a bunch of things that he conceded on in that situation. And I think overall, as I've said before, one of the things that I find important to address is having disagreements with people even to the right of myself that would still be in the center left sphere. He also appeared on Amy Goodman and Sam Cedar. I know, but it's really interesting because obviously their audiences are not going to fucking yell at them, and that's the difference there is because I am more accessible than those people, and also because like I think I am more radical than Sam Cedar and also Amy Goodman even as well. People say apologize for platforming is wild. Yeah, I know. Having watched the chat during the conversation, I will say this chat has become more invested in feeling morally superior as being left as opposed to listening to what the guests have to say. Every time Matt said something or word to something this chat didn't understand, 100% people were quick to dispose of the charitability to yell to guests was a waste of time. I think chat needs to be taught or yelled at that jumping on throats of guests does nothing productive. I agree. The people who need to hear this aren't even here yet. Chatters will bring it up over and over again and you will lose your temper and yell at them and that will turn into a cancellation of its own. I know. This is usually how it works. I guess the only thing I will say is eyes on the prize. Keep it pushing. Eyes on the prize. You must have a singular focus in this moment. If you hate me for it, that's fine. I've been having to deal with the inverse of that my entire life. It's a new meta. The initial reason as to why I had Matt Duss on was to talk about Ukraine and Russia, because that was, that's the big thing that's happening. This was a day before the Vladimir Putin summit. You were putting on such a spin to make everyone who's criticizing what you and ContraPoint should collab. You were putting such a spin on this to make everyone who's criticizing you look irrational. Does it make you feel irrational when you hear my perspective on this and that upsets you? So you have to say something that's irrational? Yeah. I think demanding an apology for having a dude on who said liberal Zionist shit for far too long, for the record, only to turn around as a foreign policy advisor is like demanding the halting of weapons transfers in the grand scheme of things, in an overwhelming sea of course, interviews that I conduct from far more radical positions, is utterly ridiculous. The notion that I am similar in any way, shape, or form to a content creator who was silent for 22 months only to come out with a liberal Zionist position at the end of that 22 months, when half of the people who are now yelling at me learned about fucking Israel-Palestine for the first time ever from me, only to become, I guess, in their own estimations, more radical than me, and now have these kinds of opinions. Also insane. In any case, I don't know. It's not a bit insulting, honestly, chatters. Yeah, it's just like people act like I'm fucking, yeah. If you are Bad Empanadas farming this shit, I know. And it's fine. I think ultimately he will get some drama out of this. He'll farm it. It'll annoy me for like the week, which is ironic because like I'll be talking about some shit that's going on as this one that we have every single day. And they'll still keep, has he told you he's farming, or are you hoping? No, I don't talk to Bad Empanada directly. I assume he is. And then people will say, you're admittedly not a good interviewer. You let him get away with too much. And then like, it'll just be like a aesthetic conversation. The fall off is legendary. Not even 20K. I know. It's over. My career, I think, is over. I'm being canceled, like I said. It's done. You are too charitable with your haters, I swear. It's because I have been a leftist for many, many years publicly. And in that time frame, I saw a community that I developed grow into the size that it did. And therefore, I am forever grateful for what I've been able to accomplish in that time frame, and that I know this position that I'm in is far better than my starting point. That's number one. Number two, I'm charitable to every single person, including my fucking haters, always, because I believe that I can change their perspective. Number three, especially if someone is on the same wavelength in general, I don't really give a shit if he farms me too much. It's just a nuisance. It's annoying because like people, because of our collaborations and whatnot, and because of our ideological similarities, there's going to be a lot of people that watch both of us that will come in here and be fucking annoying. But ultimately it doesn't matter, because those guys are still going out and fucking protesting. You know what I mean? And as long as they're doing that, I'm happy with it. As long as there's not like an active demand to deplatform someone like myself, then it's fine. Also, last but not least, as someone who is a socialist in the United States of America, as someone who is a leftist in the United States of America, as someone who is a progressive in the United States of America, I eat it from every angle. I have for the past 6, 7, 8 years at this point. This is the only experience that I know. There has never been a moment in my political commentary career, where I have had broad support from every aspect, from every ideological group in this country. That's never happened. My position and your position is not popular. A lot of people might agree with our worldview, empathy first politics, but they don't have the tools to recognize that they agree with our empathy first politics. Most people don't recognize that. My job is to try to get them to understand it. And of course, because this is a position that is not something that people know, this is not something that people understand. Socialism, the word is like spooky, scary, right? Either they don't know anything about it, or the everything that they've learned about it is just like false and incredibly uncharitable, it makes it all the less likely and far more difficult to get this message to a broad audience. As I've said time and time again, being a leftist is a really annoying prospect. You're going to get yelled at by the far right. They're going to hate you. You're anti-fascist. They're fascist. They're going to despise you. They're fucking racist. You don't want that. They're going to hate you. They're going to try to smear you. They're going to try to cancel you. Liberals will also hate you because your positions make them look fraudulent, okay? Your worldview will make them look utterly fraudulent in the eyes of a much larger audience. That's the reason why you have the Bernie Sanders effect. Democratic politicians despise him. Why do they despise him? Same with Zoran. Well, because they show the rest of the country that there is an alternative vision that you could be on board with. And that makes liberals really mad, right? And then last but not least, every other person on the left fucking hates you as well. And that's because you might have a minor ideological difference or a different way of achieving ultimately the same goals. So you eat it from all ends. That is just how it's been. And the reality of the matter is we don't do this because we want to be liked, okay? Especially in my position, being liked is important only as it spreads the message across to an audience that will be charitable rather than uncharitable. This is precisely the reason why the past 6 years of endless smear campaigns of, shit getting clipped out of context and then all of the drama surrounding it has played a formative role in making a lot of people who would otherwise agree with my worldview be disagreeable because they don't approach anything that I'm saying in a charitable manner. That's why they never talk about the message. That's why they never talk about the policies. They just talk about the messenger and how hypocritical the messenger is. Then they'll use the internal disagreements, the healthy disagreements that leftists have with one another as a way to say, see, his own audience fucking hates him. This is part of the reason why Jordan Peterson famously said that thing to Ethan Klein. It's not an easy position, but once again, it's not an easy position to be a leftist, but once again, you don't do it because you're going to get love from all of these different groups that you advocate for. You do it because it's right, okay? That's it. That's it. That's why, in spite of the millions and millions and millions of different instances over the course of the past 6 years, or over the course of the past 12 years, in spite of the reality that I have been yelled at from members of my own community who are like-minded individuals who think I'm not doing the right thing, as far as like making this a safe enough space for everybody, or liberals who say I fucked up the bag for them and I was antagonistic to their favorite politician and that's the reason why they lost, or the right wingers who want to kill me. I've continued. My positions on the things that I've advocated for have not changed at all. There have been a million people that have come before this very moment that have said, Hassan is secretly a right-winger. One day you'll see. Many of those people have become right-wingers, ironically enough. The Jimmy Dore contingency of people who were like, oh, dude, you are just a Democrat Party dick rider. Me, on the other hand, I hate the Democrats adequately and sufficiently. And then what happened? They now all vote for Republicans and defend the Republican Party. Okay? So once again, not my first rodeo. It's all good. If there's one policy, well, if there's two policies that I abide by, it's one is don't fucking punch left, especially when people are on board with the same cause as you are. And this even includes bad empanada as well. Number two, always maintain charitability and understand that people are at the mercy of social conditioning in general. I myself certainly am and certainly was, and so have many of you in this community. And that is precisely the reason why you have to always be charitable. That's it.